Interactive Television presents to you Issues That Matter. Today's discussion topics will be on psychology, mental health, and abuse. I'm your host for this evening, Elizabeth Onukwa.
And her co-host, Toast the Baddest.
Known as Joe Badru. In our lovely panel today, we have Barrister Mrs. Ifeoma Wafo, Elizabeth, who's also a nurse and a social worker. We also have Dr. Chidi Achebe, who's also a medical doctor, an MPH holder, the Director of Pediatrics at Newark Community Health Center. Welcome. And last but not least, Dr. Ijoma Njoku, who's board certified in adult and forensic psychiatry. So we have a beautiful panel this evening. So enjoy the show. Our first question for this evening is, what is psychology?
Okay. I guess the psychiatrist should answer what is psychology. It's the science of brain behavior, mind behavior, basically. It studies behavior from childhood to adulthood and what's considered norm and what's considered not norm, basically.
What is the importance of psychology? Psychologists might. No, we're gonna stay with the psychology.
Oh, we're gonna stay with the psychiatrist. Awesome. Okay, so why is psychology important? Well, it's important to know what is considered normal and what's considered abnormal. It's important to study brain behavior. It's important to study how emotions and I guess I'm moving more into psychiatry, how emotions and also bodily makeup can kind of mix together to create different states of the body. So that's why it's important. It's important for us to know these things and study these things, so when there's insults, we know how to try to fix them. Thinking, I study.
So most of you know, we're all of Nigerian descent. And psychology is not a popular topic in our community. So my question to you all is, why is this topic frowned upon in the Nigerian community?
So if I may say, the topic of psychology, I would not just keep it there, I also go to mental health right away because they go hand in hand. So people don't want to think about, there's a stigma about mental health and psychological problems. So people don't want to agree or accept that they or their folks, their wards, their peers have any mental health thing going on. And I know that's what we're going to discuss eventually because that's a very wrong way to get about it.
And also, like Dr. Achebe said, not just the stigma, like our people, they frown upon therapy, like, like cognitive behavioral therapy. Sometimes they think it's of the mindset, like it's not something like Igbo people or Nigerians have to do. They feel as though, like, if you have to see a therapist, it doesn't make sense because if you guys remember back home when anything is not going right, you go to your parents for advice, you go to the elderly for advice. So in America, to tell a Nigerian that you have to see a therapist, they're thinking that something is wrong with the children. And I've seen instances of parents that raise their children here and they believe that if they have to enroll their children in therapy services, it means that the children are crazy because they feel that the therapist can even feed them information that are not correct. And I believe for Nigerians mostly, they feel as though when children go to the therapist, they make some certain disclosures that are like family secrets that is meant for the family. So that's why most people, they frown upon their children being exposed to like therapies because, our parents, my dad told me there are things you keep at home.
And I'm glad that you addressed that because during my research for this program, they talked about the Black family and how we're raised to keep things within the family. You're not allowed to talk to anyone outside of the family about your issues. And if you do speak to someone outside of the family about your issues, they're usually like a spiritual advisor. So hence why I guess we don't take therapy seriously, because we're always taught to pray about everything. And by all means, I believe in prayer and the power of prayer. I'm a Christian. That's very important to have a spiritual life. But therapy is just a different world on its own, and it's very, very therapeutic. I can speak from a personal experience. When I lost my father, and I was 22, I was still in school, and I lived on campus. So we took my father home to bury him, and as soon as we came back, I had to go back to school because I was a resident advisor. So my boss saw me, walking up and down, behaving normally. So she went behind my back and booked a therapy session with the school counselor, and I was upset. I'm like, I don't believe in this, I can get through it. It just takes time to heal. But my first therapy session, she asked me, "How are you?" And I cried the whole hour. I couldn't even tell her how I was. But that's the power of therapy, because you can pray about things, but sometimes it's something as small as, "How are you?" or "How is your day going?" But we'll get to it, because mental health does tie into this. Very well. So why is the topic of psychology discouraged as a major in school? Psychiatrist?
Okay, so I majored in biology because I thought it was the only way to get into med school. And after med school, I went into psychiatry. And my mother she didn't know how to cope with it. She kept asking me why. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? After first year of residency, she asked me, "Can you switch? Can you change?" At graduation, she said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" So I truly think it's because it's not considered a real science. I think it's labeled as a soft science because there are a lot of things we don't know about the brain and the mind. So it's considered a field that you go into if you can't do anything else. And it's really unfortunate because a lot of us, our community, we don't seek help because we cannot identify with our providers. We don't want to see a therapist, we don't want to see a psychiatrist because we can't identify with a white woman sitting across from us. We just can't. They don't know our culture. They don't know the type of stigma that mental health has in our culture. They don't, we can't go to them talking about extended family in the house and how we feel about that. We can't go to them talking about the pressures that we're getting from mommy or daddy about something because they can't relate. So if they can't relate, why are we going there? Right. So it's really unfortunate that we don't have more providers that are in the culture. And secondly, I think a lot of it does come from back home, because there's no recognition of mental health. Mental health back home is you're mad and you're roaming the streets and your hair is looking crazy and you're wearing torn clothes and nobody is talking about depression, nobody is talking about anxiety, no one is talking about obsessive compulsive disorder, no one is talking about abuse, no one is talking about any of that stuff. It's all you're psychotic, you're mad, and that's it. So when you talk about psychology, mental health, that doesn't happen to us. Yeah. We're strong, we're intelligent, and that's that. And we have strong families, and we're smart, and we're doctors and lawyers and nurses, and we take over the world, and we're all okay. And that's it.
As a piggyback to what my co-panelist here said, Dr. Njoku, what I'm going to say is her perspective, which is quite right, from the US point of view. From the Nigerian point of view, people ran away from going into psych. How does it psych to cover psychology and psychiatry? So they will tell you, oh, you end up being crazy if you become a psych doctor.
My mom said that.
Right.
I
So-
said, you're going to go mad.
Right.
I looked at her like, what?
And I can tell you, when doing our psych rotation and having our psych professors in school, back in Nigeria, I did my med school, honestly, they were all, sorry to say, crazy, really. Because I remember one of them that would wear rings on all his fingers. I remember the other one that, he would drive the oldest car on earth, meanwhile he had a lot of money.
Eccentric.
Eccentric is the word.
Right,
So they
right,
were
right.
just like that.
Politically
So
correct.
that was what was our problem back home with psych.
And also, what I've noticed, because I did my internship at Israel and their mental psych unit, people frown upon it because of the, I'm gonna say like risk or safety issues associated with it, because sometimes the individuals that you providing services to, they might really have like an episode and your safety might be at risk, because I've seen some of the residents that attacked the practitioners. So when family members kind of know that you want to go into that field, they will let you know that you have to be careful, because you're working with crazy people, your life is really in danger and everything. So I think it's another problem or reason why maybe our loved ones, our family members don't really want us to go into psych.
So it's a no-go area.
Yes.
Well, let me just say something. I have to say something. So, part of the problem is the term crazy. I loathe that term, because mental health is not crazy. It's like a spectrum of different issues, and people relate mental health to crazy, and that's the first problem.
So they stereotype mental
It's
health.
the stereotype.
Yeah.
And let me just say, it's not only just our culture. I'm just gonna say
Yeah.
that.
But we will narrow things down to our culture, because we are in that community, and these are things that our people do not address or want to talk about. Like we said, you mentioned some psychological disorders while you were giving an example to answer another question. So what are some known? We can talk about the known or popular psychological disorders. And while you give us these psychological disorders, please let us know about the causes and the effects of these psychological disorders.
Oh, you're trying to go deep.
Oh yeah.
Causes.
This is
I can
raw.
tell you
This
what
is
I
live.
know.
Okay.
I can't tell you what I don't know.
Absolutely.
So, okay, crazy. So let's start with psychotic. So there's a spectrum of disorders, and usually they fall into psychotic disorders, affective disorders, which are depression and anxiety, different spectrums of depression and anxiety, and then there are substance use disorders. Then there are also personality disorders. So psychotic disorders are like something like schizophrenia or schizoaffective, and that's usually someone that may be experiencing hallucinations, or maybe seeing or hearing things that are not there, or have a belief system that's not rooted in reality, and it's affecting their everyday activities. And sometimes they have these issues, and they also have maybe depression on top of that, or they're unable to keep their mood steady. Then you have affective disorders, which can be spectrums of anxiety that you may have when something happens to you, and then there's anxiety that you always have no matter what happens during your day. And then there's spectrums of depression. There's depression that you may have low mood and poor sleep and poor energy, more days than not. And it doesn't really matter what stressors that you have coming to you, you generally feel that way. And then there's times when you may have a lot of stressors, and your reaction to those stressors are poor mood, poor sleep, poor appetite. Sometimes thinking of death, thinking that life is not worth living, feeling hopeless, like you don't have hope for anything, you don't feel any worth in yourself. And then there is something in between psychosis and affective disorders, which is bipolar disorder. Your mood can go from very happy, overly happy for no reason, and maybe feeling invincible, like you could do anything, but you can't really keep a steady mood. Then we have things like personality disorders, and at least, you know, everyone has at least one person in their family that has a personality disorder. And those are the people that, you know, during the holidays have to be fighting you for no reason and need a lot of attention and can't keep good relationships and fighting with this sister and that brother and mommy and daddy. And usually those things have reasons why they are like that, but this is just how they are no matter what happens throughout life. And then there's abuse. Abuse and substance abuse. Substances can make you feel any type of way.
Thank you so much. So, the popular question of the night, what is mental health? We've mentioned it a couple of times, now we will delve deeper into what mental health is.
So, again, I'm not a specialist in psychiatry or psychology, but from the medical point of view, and what I can tell you, mental health is a branch of health that deals with your psychological, social, emotional, and well-being generally. And it tells how you respond to things, like how you make choices, how you relate with people around you, how you go about your day-to-day activity. Because when your state of health, mental-wise, is together, you'll be able to think well, make good decisions, function better than the person who doesn't have a good state of health. So it's very, very important in life generally.
What are some factors that affect our mental health?
I would say your support system, who's there for you in your corner, who you can talk to. Also your physical health, if you have chronic illnesses, maybe you have hypertension, diabetes, cancer, anything that can affect your homeostasis of your physical health. And there is substance abuse, if you drink all the time, or if you're smoking, or abusing these substances. And then there is abuse that occurs to you, physical, sexual, emotional. And stressors, just stressors that may be a little bit more difficult to handle, given all those other things.
And also, I believe that, like, in addition to what Dr. Njoku said, there are also things that can, affect your mental health. There are things that we call like protective factors. I believe those are like the framework that makes any family or any community to be strong. For example, if a parent has like a knowledge of child development and everything, so that parent will know that like your child probably need like immunization, you have to do like well visit and stuff like that. And then there's also a protective factor of emotional competence of children. Some children, due to peer pressure, depending on the family background, if they're not like socially connected to like a consistent adult in their life, it could affect their mental health. That's why some children, they always express suicidal ideation. I want to kill myself, I want to jump over the bridge. And those are like because of maybe bullying in school or stuff like that. And then you see also lack of protective factor in like lack of parental resilience. Like if the parents are not resilient, like they go through a lot of trauma, maybe they lost their job and they did a lot of stuff, or maybe their children are removed from their care. Those are the things that will make you to feel very bad or like, frown towards the society. But when you have that resilience in you, you are able to cope with anything. So I believe that like, if any family or even community or globally, we have like those protective factors that makes our family and community strong, it will go a long way in making sure that our mental health is intact.
Wow. Amazing. So, So far, we've heard a lot about anxiety and depression. Can you please explain to our audience what anxiety is and what depression is? Because anxiety, everyone has it. You know, it might not be a diagnosis, but we've all experienced some sort of anxiety at a point in our lives. But a lot of people don't know what anxiety is. So what is anxiety and what is depression?
Anxiety, we all get anxious. So we all have that normal anxiety that comes in once in a while. But when you have anxiety to the extent where it affects your everyday, you know, where you're always very nervous, always very on edge, always worried about one thing or the other, and you can't function like a normal person. You know, some people say they have stage fright. We all have it. I have that stage fright.
Oh, yeah.
But when you can't come up stage to say anything, then it's on another level. So now we can say it's anxiety disorder. They have different types of anxiety disorder: panic disorder, generalized anxiety disorder. You know, I know she will give me some more later on because I'm going to stop here. I'm just a pediatrician. So that depression is a state of being sad and just not. We all get sad too. I know when I see my patients in the clinic, especially the teenagers, when I ask them, "Are you depressed?" I don't just go say, "Are you depressed?" I say, "I know we all get sad sometimes. I get sad sometimes. But do you get sad to the extent that you don't enjoy what you do every day? You feel that life is not worth living. You feel very tired or very sleepy, or your sleep is being affected, either sleeping excessively or not sleeping at all. Your appetite is affected. You know, it's mostly you don't want to eat. But sometimes you can also get you eat a lot. So it's a whole lot of these things that you all see in someone who is depressed. I would also say that in kids, that's not what you said. That's not what you see. Like Fifi said with her own past knowledge with kids and abuse and everything. She said the kids don't present like sadness, depression and all that. Instead, you see them acting out. So they come in, they're all over the place. You know, they were diagnosed with ADHD and things like that. So it's a different presentation for kids. So, and then they go to school, the oppositional defiant disorder, you see that? Where they antagonize everything that is happening around them, which if you don't check, if you don't start early to take care of it, goes ahead to get into conduct disorder, where they will get violent, they would love seeing something die, you know, they shoot. And that's where we get to the public health implications of mental health and all that, where we'll go to gun violence, which is a scourge we have now, and then other things like substance abuse will come in. Okay, I'll stop.
No, you can continue with that was well said. You can continue with the public health implications.
Right. So public health implications of mental health. So like I already said, if we're not having a good mental health in us or in our people around us, that's when we see situations where you have gun violence, that is the case in America. I agree putting away the guns is very important. But then, because most of them are sick, you know, that you have a gun in front of you doesn't mean you're going to take that gun and go shoot somebody if you're normal. It's either you feel the whole world is against you, which is what psychosis, you feel the whole world is against you, or you feel you were maltreated in a family where you grew up in and nobody is listening to you, you are being neglected, like she said already. You now want people to listen to you. You now go out and do something so that they will see that you're there, that you can do something to people. So that's one public health implication, which is gun violence that we are in now. Then the other thing is substance abuse. So you see how it's the in thing now, the government is trying to do something about it. Substance abuse is actually a symptom of depression. When you get depressed, you feel, okay, I'm going to take marijuana, You know, it makes me feel good. You know, I'll take it every day. They do all sorts of things, and because they take it every day, they can't do any other thing. So that's another public health problem that we have in our society. And even in Nigeria, I think they're there too. So that's why we have to
It's a
start.
codeine addiction in Nigeria.
What codeine?
Codeine.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, to piggyback off of what you said, anxiety and substance abuse is actually comorbid. They come hand in hand. Yeah. So you see someone with anxiety disorder, their inability to adjust to anxiety or stressors, and the physical symptoms that come with it, more than likely they're abusing substances.
I also agree with you guys because I call it like a co-occurring disorder because, like you said, most people that like experience depression, sometimes they even have like maybe some element of domestic violence and everything, like because it's a factor that contributes to it. And then most people that have like maybe substance abuse issue, they will probably be like victims of domestic violence. So it's a social problem because when you look at the data that has been presented, you find out that 10 million people annually have been affected by these issues because we just look at the mental health aspect of it, but then it goes into other things because they can combine and create a whole lot of problems.
Very true. Okay, so I have some statistics for you all. And according to the Federal Ministry of Health, 20 to 30% of Nigerians have mental health issues, and 40 million have mental illnesses due to the economic hardship. Okay, so by the year 2020, it is estimated that common mental disorders such as depression, anxiety, and substance-related disorders will disable more people than complications arising from HIV/AIDS, heart disease, accidents, and war combined. So Nigeria is in trouble because we do not recognize mental health issues. So the question I have for you all is, why are mental health disorders not given the needed attention that it deserves?
Nigeria or here?
In Nigeria. As Nigerian people,
Right.
we've grown up in the culture, and we know about how our culture views these things and these issues. So why haven't we given it the needed attention that it deserves?
Like you said, we already said some of them. One is the stigma. Two is we probably don't even have enough psychiatrists and psychologists. And I would also give something to Nigeria that works. In Nigeria, everybody lives together. It's a village. It takes a village to raise kids in Nigeria, and even to raise yourself. So Nigeria is a society which is working for us, where if you have a problem, you have somebody to talk to. Unlike here. And I would say when you look at it that way, you see that so far the mental health illness is not as much, although it might be underdiagnosed, but I feel also that it's not as much as it is here. And that's because you have people to talk to. Over here, if I want to talk to Joe might be at work. Meanwhile in Nigeria, Joe calls me and says, "Hey, what are you doing? We'll go hang out." But here, it's so busy. Here, people are working a lot. You don't have people to talk to. So that helps us in Nigeria. But still, we have to have that awareness. Because if we don't have that awareness, we'll get to the place where we'll be faced by that gun violence and the substance abuse that you're just talking about.
So as healthcare professionals here in the United States, and knowing what you know and the level of education that you all have, if you were to go back to Nigeria and implement some laws or change some things catering to mental health or illnesses, what would you do? How do you rectify this issue?
Let me just go back to the 2015, I believe it's called the Millennium Developmental Goal. That was established by UN. United Nations has more than 100 countries. They came together and they were saying things that have to change. So they were projected that mental health, poverty is a problem, post-addiction and all everything, because they all go hand in hand. So, but the issue is that countries like Nigeria, we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the resources in order to take care of that. So because of what's going on, it's projected that it's gonna cause more problems. So I believe that for Nigerians, we have to, create the awareness. We have to let the people know what's going on, and then hopefully maybe they can take little goals that will help by maybe establishing health centers that could cater to mental health services and everything, and also then educate family members of what's going on. And you find out that sometimes when people have their family members that have mental health issues, they don't even come out to do anything about it. They don't even believe in adjunct therapy, meaning trying to do therapy with medication or anything like that. They don't do that. And most of them is because of poverty, there's no money and everything. Because thinking of the hierarchy of need, people pursue basic need. If they're hungry, they're not gonna think of mental health services and everything. So maybe we that are here, we can go back home and create awareness and maybe educate people to let them know what's going on. Because somebody that is hungry will not think of going to the doctor for a psychiatric issue. They will tell you to go and sleep over and everything.
I just think that it's also important that we recognize that not every mental illness is stemming from not having someone to talk to. We have to also understand that a lot of it is chemical imbalances as well. This is why we have medications. So, and these chemical imbalances, more often than not, were not something that you as yourself created. So you're not to blame for it. But a lot of times, blame gets put on you, and it's something you did. And this is why no one wants to talk about it, because you did something, or your family did something that got you like that.
If I may add to what Ife said, we have to invest, especially in Nigeria, invest in mental health. I remember, without dating myself, I finished my school in Nigeria 20-something years ago. Back then, we had just 3 psychiatric hospitals. So people didn't have practices as psychiatrists. So you must work in those hospitals. They had the psychiatric hospital in Enugu where I trained. They had one in Iselu in Benin City, and they had another one in Lagos, I think. So with 3 psychiatric hospitals, how can you walk into a psych person and say, hey, I have this problem? Where do you see them? So this is a country with 36 states. You might have just less than 10 psychiatric hospitals. So we have to really invest and make greater awareness. And then pay the doctors well.
Something that made me smile was last year, I saw a billboard in Lagos, a billboard about depression, talk about it, and there was a number there. I couldn't believe it. I said, wow, there's a billboard about depression? I couldn't believe it. Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Paying your doctors well. The doctors need to be paid. Yeah, government, you can't be withholding month, and then expect doctors to not go on strike. But it's not political.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, next question. We feel that children and adults with mental illness are a forgotten population in our community. What are some mental illnesses that you see in children now, and what are signs that show mental illness?
So mental illnesses in children, again, like I said, they don't present I'll take up the adolescents. They pretty much behave like the adults when they have mental illness. But the little kids, what you see is, to me, it's more of hyperactivity for ADHD. So you see them, they're all over the place, they are active, and it's difficult for parents to even say, my child has this. When they even say it, okay, let me say why they wouldn't say it. One is, they think it's normal childhood behavior. Oh, he's a boy. So, and then secondly, when they even now agree that something might be wrong, they don't want to talk about it. You know, I know how difficult it is for me to encourage, especially our parents, to go, oh, this child doesn't talk well. Like whenever they come in, I engage them.
Yeah.
So there's learning problem there. There is ADHD, there's autism. You know, which when they come in, they're not talking well, and it's under mental health issue. So now you have autism, you have ADHD, you have, I already spoke about oppositional defiant disorder, I spoke about conduct disorder, and they also have depression, anxiety, and all that, not commonly seen in kids. But these are the ones that we see. And what I'll tell parents is, talk with a doctor. I know the ones that I'll talk to them at this visit, they say, okay, I'll go. They come back, I'm like, did you? No, but we're working on it. And then one day, eventually they come and they say, oh, so, you know, I'm really thinking about what we spoke about. I now want to go.
Right.
You know, so we have to be on them. We do screenings as pediatricians, we do screenings at 9 months, 18 months, and then 24 or 30 months. You know, to generally see, I mean, you do it regularly, but these particular have to pay special attention to their developmental stages, which I think you spoke about before. You have to make sure they're doing what they should be doing at this stage. And what could make them not do it? It could be any of those mental health illnesses. It could be autism, it could be ADHD, it could be, you know, it could be anxiety, it could be depression, it could be depression because the family is not, they're abusing him or her, right? Or,
Yeah.
you know, it could be anything, right? So anyway, let me stop.
Very well, very well. Okay.
But can I just say
Yes,
one
ma'am.
thing? Why do you think it is so difficult for parents to come to the realization? It's because they are internalizing what's happening with their child, and it's, what did I do? What did we
Correct.
do wrong
Right.
for this child to have this?
Right. And another thing, in addition to what you said, is I'm a parent. I have kids, you know, ranging from 6 to 12, right? Not so many, just 3. So now,
Okay,
so when we all want our kids to be the best.
Right.
So if you think your child has a problem, you're in denial. You're telling yourself, no, that's normal. Oh, no, that's normal. Meanwhile, it's not normal. So you're, in addition to what Dr. Njoti said, that you know, you feel, what did he say?
Internalizing, feel like, what did I do?
Right, you don't want to be blamed for it.
Right.
You know, but the truth is, some of them, I remember my developmentalist when I did training, my first residency in pediatrics in Beth Israel. She would tell mom, like, you come in and this child is, you know what, mom, there's nothing wrong with your child. There's nothing wrong with your child. You have to take care of your child. You're not taking care of your child. You know, because they come in, you don't see this mom who comes in sucking her thumb.
Right.
Or on the phone doing something else, and the child is all over the
So
place.
they just negligent.
Right,
Yeah.
and then the developmentalist is asking her, so when did this child walk? She didn't even hear, she's on the phone. You know, and then she's made a diagnosis. Mom,
Wow.
this 2-year-old or this 3-year-old,
Nurture.
right, there's nothing wrong with this
Right.
child. You have to take care of the child. So that's what she's saying. They don't want to be blamed, but sometimes they are victims.
Exactly. Thank you. So our final question for our break is, in our community, Nigerian community or African community, why are children that are mentally challenged ostracized? We tend to hide our children. I'll give you an example. Growing up in my town, there were some Nigerians, it's not as many as we have now. There's this family we were really close to, and I would only see a brother and a sister. We all went to elementary school together. I never knew there was a third child. And this is because that child had a mental challenge. And they would always hide the child, even when we went over to the house.
So remember back then, they would think, I don't know if it's still like that in Nigeria, it's probably still like that. But you don't want people to look at your family as your family was cursed. Because remember, traditionally, they had a family that would do something wrong in the village, and then the SMO, the chief priest would, say, okay, you've been cursed.
Yeah.
And then they would be afflicted with illnesses, and one of those illnesses could be mental health illness. So even when it's not coming from a cause, You don't want people to think, oh, didn't you see that one? It was because they were cursed. The other thing is something they call ogwego.
Okay.
Ogwego means ritual.
Ritual.
That they probably use that child to perform ritual and get money. That's why he has all the money he has. Because he used that particular child to get money. So you don't want people to know that, and that's a problem. Because this poor child, like Dr. Njoko said, probably had a chemical imbalance somewhere. This thing is not coming from him or her, and would benefit from medication that would help him do better and perform better. We have people who have autism who, I don't want to name a president that they say has autism. President of a country, one of the best players, soccer players in the world, football players in the world, they say he has autism. Because autism, you want to repeat things. You know, if they come in here, that's how I diagnose them with it. They will go to the light and keep switching it off and on. So they like it. And they're very good with computer math. I had a 17-month-old who came in, I still remember his name. The parents told me, he doesn't know a word of English. But he counts from 20 backwards.
Wow.
So this soccer player, they say he does the same thing. If he gets the ball here and the post is there, he would always make his first dribble to his left, second to his right, another to his right, play it, and if you kick him, he falls to the right or to the left. So he repeats it. And that's why he's that good. So but one, you have to make sure that this person gets the ability to be on. I agree, autism is a spectrum. It can be bad, it can be very bad, it can be terrible. But whatever it is, you get them to the next level by starting early to intervene. So that's why we have the early intervention program in PEACE. I send them in before 3 years out.
No, I mean,
That's
this, people need to know this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
At 3, don't ignore it.
Right.
Don't ignore
Right.
it.
Right.
And then even back home, I believe that some parents you have this amplified or maybe good idea of what you think what you want your child to be. I remember my dad, when I was young, he's like, oh, you're gonna be a lawyer, and then when that expectation is not met, so they kind of not even humbled, and they're so disappointed. And then some of the parents, they don't want their family, friends, or other people to look at their child as having a problem. Like Dr. Njoko and Dr. Chidi said. So when parents feel that way, I think it's a shameful thing, to say that your child has a problem like that. That's why some children that have mental illness, they call them obanje back home, that they acting weird, they're not normal kids. But those children, they have imbalance, and it's a disease that the parents are not taking care of. So I think is the fear of what people are gonna think about them. Remember, we want everybody to perceive us as being good, normal, and perfect family. But unfortunately, some families are very dysfunctional, and there's nothing wrong with it. They just need support in order to be able to thrive like other families.
Wow.
I'm perfect.
Thank you. We'll be going on our break now.